This is Norfolk Southern's bridge across the Mississippi River at Hannibal, Missouri. To the casual observer, it's just an ordinary-looking railroad bridge. But the people of Hannibal can tell you of something that took place one day in December of 1993 that makes this bridge far from ordinary. The story of the Hannibal Bridge really begins in 1871 when it was first built. During the bridge's long and useful history, many a person has used it to cross the mighty Mississippi. Some on foot, others in horse-drawn wagons, and of course, in trains. In addition, many tons of freight and materials have passed across this 1,582-foot bridge on the way to points all across the nation. The bridge originally consisted of 7 spans, with the second one from the west end being a 362-foot-long swing span. Over the years, changes were made to the bridge to accommodate changes in traffic patterns, modes of transportation, and weight load requirements. One such change was made in 1888, when the original lightweight wrought iron trusses were replaced. But the most astonishing change was yet to occur. As the nation grew, its ravenous appetite for more and more raw materials grew. This increase in demand encouraged shipbuilders to build larger ships and barges. Occasionally, these larger barges would strike the bridge's dolphins and fender system. As the frequency of these mishaps increased, it was clear that a wider navigational opening was needed. So, in 1988, Norfolk Southern and the Coast Guard began discussions about replacing the swing span. Project funding was subsequently made available under the Truman-Hobbs Act. Funding was approved, in part, because Norfolk Southern offered to make a surplus vertical lift span from an abandoned rail line near Florence, Alabama, available for use at Hannibal. The span at Florence was built in 1963 and was in relatively good condition. Recycling this bridge saved Norfolk Southern $1 million. In the summer of 1992, the vertical lift span was disassembled and shipped to Hannibal on 7 barges. At the same time, tower piers were erected at the Hannibal Bridge to accommodate the new span. The vertical lift span was then sandblasted, primed, reassembled, and set up on falsework on 2 barges. 2 more barges would be used to remove the old swing span. The plan called for the old span to be floated out and the new span floated in. This span exchange would be performed by American Bridge Company personnel, assisted by Norfolk Southern employees. The series of events that were about to take place would amaze everyone who saw them. Work began at midnight on December 16th, when 2 barges with false work were placed under the old swing span. The bridge was taken out of service at 6:15 that morning. As water was pumped out of the barges, the swing span gradually rose off its piers. The swing span started to move downstream at 9:05. During this time, a 12-foot section of each approach span was also removed to accommodate the new span. After the old span was removed, the new vertical lift span was slowly floated into position. The new span moved into final position at 1:30 that afternoon. Next, 48 2¼ steel cables connecting the counterweights to the lift span were installed. 12 cables were located at each corner of the bridge. The counterweights had been previously pinned into place on the lift towers. This allowed the bridge to remain suspended as water was pumped into the 2 barges supporting the new span. Next, the alignment plates were installed on the new bridge. These plates keep the span in horizontal alignment whenever it is raised and lowered. Then the air buffers were installed. The buffers act as shock absorbers and protect the bridge seats when the bridge is lowered. Norfolk Southern employees began spiking the rail at 6 o'clock that evening. Meanwhile, American Bridge Company personnel slightly raised the bridge with cranes in order to unpin the counterweights. The bridge was released for rail traffic at 2 a.m. on December 17th. In less than 24 hours, 20 to be exact, the swing span had been replaced. Imagine seeing the old bridge one day and the new bridge the next. That's exactly what the residents of Hannibal saw, even though some of them had a hard time believing it. The Hannibal Swing Span Replacement Project was a culmination of cooperation between various governmental agencies, Norfolk Southern Corporation, and American Bridge Company. It also required extensive cooperation between Norfolk Southern's transportation, communications and signals, and maintenance of way and structures departments. The span replacement was completed without injury. This project illustrates how Norfolk Southern combines safety, planning, teamwork, and thoroughbred quality as it strives to achieve its operations vision to be the safest, most reliable, and efficient railroad in the world.